Bye. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Barb.
Hello, I'm Tom.
And this is our podcast for October 1st. And it's called
When God Gets Your Attention. So what we've decided is, well, we're working on a book and we're working on some things, but the podcast is one of those. And we're just going to have a conversation and it'll kind of be interactive between the two of us, kind of give people a chance to hear about our thoughts and what's the contents of our upcoming book, about when God gets our attention in our daily lives. What do you think about that, Barb?
Yeah, I think that, what we want people to realize is that sometimes when, you feel like you're alone, you feel like you're anxious, you feel like, wow, you just did really well. And sometimes you feel like you want to know that someone is there. And what we've found is that no matter who we are, no matter where we are in the world, that God gets our attention. And we've narrowed it down to 7 signals from spirit: symptoms, signs, songs, synchronicities, strangers, the small voice, and I forgot the other one. Did I say strangers?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
But there's 7 of them. The still small voice, the strangers, situations.
Oh, yeah. Situations. Right. Yeah.
Situations is one too. That situations we find ourselves in from time to time, where through guidance, a shove in the back, whatever, we find ourselves having that connection with our higher power, for sure.
Yeah.
And all of these, and all of these signs we see every day, things, somebody says something in a conversation or on TV or whatever, that just resonates with us so fully and completely, and maybe even changes, our direction. We take that left fork in the road instead of the right.
Mm-hmm.
I just heard somebody talking about everything is a crossroads, a spiritual teacher, and it's true. And we get that nudge to go one direction or another all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And these are some of the 7 S's, are some of the ways that we've discovered, the packages that they come in, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes, the situations are ones where we say, what's this all about? I didn't ask for this, but there's always a lesson in it for us. And when we step away, we realize too that the amazing part of this is that Spirit has that message for us at the right time, and it's the right one specifically for us. So, for example, last year, November, Tom knows this, my dad passed away, and I was just so devastated. And I'm in the cab coming back from the airport after the service, and I hear a song by Whitney Houston, "I Will Always Love You." And I start to cry because I know that my dad would have been saying that to me at that time. So it was that song for me at that time. And my dad was also a big Frank Sinatra fan. So whenever we would hear My Way or any of the Frank Sinatra songs, it would make us pause. And that's the thing too, that when we get these signals, we might be so busy that we just can't make time to say, okay, God, I'll get you later. I'll catch you later, or maybe on Sunday. But it's at that moment in our busy day where we're getting that song, or we're getting that license plate, or the stranger comes by, or the situation happens that just makes us change and go in one direction. And so in some ways, even though I was hurting, very sad, it was something that was, it hurt, it helped my heart heal. And that's what we also want to put out there for all of you, to think about, when did you have that song? When did you have that symptom? And as we go forward with our weekly podcast, we're going to focus on a particular S for that day, and then talk about that and ask you to be thinking about that too, as you're part of this community with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a great example. And I mean, for you to hear that song, it has such a special meaning. For me to hear that song, I might think, what a great song, but it may
Right.
not touch my heart in that way. And those are the things. I was one of the things that I do is I'm an EMT for an ambulance company, and I'm driving a lot around town, and I'm driving down the road the other day, and as we're preparing to launch this podcast, and I see a license plate, and I see a lot of license plates and vanity plates that typically don't always touch me really in any way. And I see this one that says, "This is it." And it is spelled with a one. I remember. And it was a little bit of confirmation and maybe a little bit of a kick in the pants that said, yes, this is it, and I knew exactly what it was showing me. And the person that bought that vanity plate, maybe bought it for a completely different reason, but for me, it had a meaning immediately that
Right.
I knew in my consciousness. And I think these are the things. And then the following thing is, the following step is, what do you do with these things? Do you, anything from maybe say a little prayer of gratitude to, maybe there's some action you want to take. For me, this is it, was just a confirmation, a prayer of gratitude indeed, as well as preparing to, to move forward with our project.
Yeah. And I think
So,
sometimes when that happens, I mean, it's one of those stop you in your tracks moments as well, because that was right place, right within your line of vision, within your sight at that particular time,
right
where
there for
right there for you. And all of a sudden, and many times we have situations where we say, oh God, help me, when things are not going well. I mean, whether it's you're having an illness, whether there's an accident, or even when your team is like losing. We've had people like you see like the ESPN or whatever scanning the crowd, and they're all like this, and they're praying because they have this idea that there's an intervention that's necessary. But sometimes when we are on track, and maybe we haven't shared our dream with anyone else, and we know that who else would know about this but us and the Almighty, that there's that confirmation. And so sometimes when we're looking at this, we want you to be thinking in your lives too, where are you on track? Where is it that you have your goal for maybe your next step? And even though we have the 7 signals, we also have 6 of the what nows, as we term them. And we'll be talking about those in the future with the podcast as well. So, Tom, you want to tell us, besides the EMT, a little bit about yourself?
Well, a little bit about myself. I am from the Midwest originally, in Wisconsin. I'm a country boy from up north. When I was in 8th grade, my family moved to Arizona. So big change there. And I lived in Lake Havasu, where we had a lot of fun. It was a small town, and lake and desert. Now I have a family. I have two boys. My kids are grown. I'm married to a wonderful woman named Sue. I'm retired. I had a career in the Air Force that I'm now retired from, 22 years in the Air Force. And I've done some other jobs. I worked for FEMA for a few years. Um, I have a dog, love the outdoors, love sports. Green Bay Packers, go Pack. Baseball season is coming to an end. The Brewers are in the playoffs. Um, got a lot of interests. Did a lot of martial arts when I was younger. Spiritual studies have been um, always important. And I'll just leave it at that for now. More will be revealed.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't know that you lived in Lake Havasu, so that was new for me too. Well, it's very interesting because I was born on an Air Force base in Washington, D.C., the same one that we found out that Tom had. That was the last his last appointment before he retired, right?
Yep, my last duty station.
That's duty station, yes. So
Bowling Air Force.
Bowling Air Force
And it's very small.
Yeah,
It's a tiny little base.
I thought it was like, I didn't even think anybody like heard of it. So I thought that was, again, we talked, that's a synchronicity where how would that have happened? Like, how would you get two people, to come to Arizona and have that commonality? I mean, it's just one of those things that we, as sometimes people would call them coincidences or God winks or something, but we know that they're being designed to also offer us a confirmation. I'm the oldest of six. I have two grown children myself, and they're both on the East Coast where I'm from originally. I started out, I left a banking job on Wall Street because I always wanted to be a teacher and educator. And I most recently have been a university professor. So I retired from academia in July of this year. And so my work was in teaching teachers and working with pre-service teachers. And also my area of research was more of what was called qualitative research or narrative research. I was very interested in listening to people's stories. Like people would just tell me about their lives. Like we started out with one event in history, and before you know it, there was a situation where somehow this theme of when God got your attention tended to get into the mix as well. Because every single culture, because my area that I would be teaching would be social studies, history, economics, there's always that discussion in civilization, in culture, of what people believe in and how they think, and then what they do and their practices. So, world religions was part of it as well. So I just found, travel and meeting different people to be part of what's, brought me to this place at this point.
Nice. Yeah, you've had some adventures too, huh?
I have, because one of the
Teaching
things.
in Italy.
Yeah. I was somebody who was just selected to go and start a program to teach abroad, and start an education program in Siena, Italy. And then from there, I had different places where I went for conferences. So I met people in India and Copenhagen and Greece and Turkey. And it seemed as if there was always a commonality of family and trying to do good in their capacity to do so. And so that's what we also want to bring into this project, to have it available on a platform where friends of ours from around the world, and Tom was stationed in different places around the globe, they could just, listen to this as well and find that there's something that resonates with them, no matter how old and where you're from.
exactly. And even though, we all share a certain amount of spirituality and interests and beliefs, we're not by any means representing any denomination, any religion, any specific spiritual um, point of view per se. I know you and I both agree that the things we're talking about work with whatever your belief system is, and we're just putting out um, really information that can help or apply to any person walking around the globe, whether they subscribe to any religion or none, to be honest.
Mhm.
You don't have to be particularly spiritual or religious to recognize that God's getting your attention. If you have stomach cancer per se, you might look at it as misfortune or oh, now I got to deal with this. Or you might look at it as maybe this is a wake-up call for me to do something differently. How am I digesting life? you know am I eating right? Am I taking care of myself properly? Maybe I should get healthy and, you know, hopefully healed from that and move forward in a positive direction. And maybe thank my higher power or thank God or whomever that may be, um, for the wake up call and the opportunity to do something different.
Yeah,
So, so those are a little
yeah,
bit of, yeah.
no, go ahead. I think what you were bringing up is one of the S's that sometimes we really forget about is the symptoms. And I think that's how sort of this got started for me because, I've been an educator all my life and, every educator that I know tends to wait till a summer vacation to address some of their health issues. They just like focus on the students. And because in reality, it's much harder to explain all of what you do to a substitute. So you just say, well, I'll wait. And then sometimes you wait and it's too late. And so for me, I was ignoring headaches and double vision for months. And I also had a 9-month-old and a 5-year-old. And so I was working full time with first graders and they were a handful. And then I would come home and my daughter wasn't sleeping through the night. So I just assumed that the headaches were because of not getting enough rest. Well, 2 days after the end of the academic year, and the teachers will be laughing about this, I got all my report cards in and all the end of the year files submitted. And then it was just like, the small voice and like the little tap on the shoulder, like, maybe you should get this checked. And I'm like, wait, June. Okay. All of a sudden, it was like what I would call the push off the cliff moment. I had symptoms that now impacted my belief, and I lost my left side, my speech while I was cooking dinner for my family back home. And I was in Connecticut in a small ranch house. And I wrote about that in another book. And at that point, I was on one right leg, balancing, holding myself up on a counter. My husband had taken the kids, a 6-year-old and the 9-month-old, in the other end of our small house. And I'm trying to, it didn't seem small when I was trying to get myself walking, hobbling on one leg to that room and going in there and not making any sense. And at that point, it was just get me to the hospital. get the kids to a neighbor. And it was that wake up call. It was the push off the cliff. And it was actually a time where I knew that I couldn't get myself out of this one. So many times we think we can get ourselves out of it. And then when we're at the very end of our rope, that's when we give that attention to God, like, oh, I need help. And the rest of the time when we think we got it handled, we're just like, I got this. But it turned out that I was on a gurney. I was not able to see, and things were really not looking good. And I also tested positive for leukemia, which they revealed a few days later after the blood work came in. So, yeah, it was a symptom. And I
Well,
think
that's a handful right there.
that was a handful right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're glad you recovered, and some of those things too, perhaps there's something you could do that would be preventative, in that respect, but maybe not, whereas a lot of the times there's definitely a preventative course we could take. I guess with you, you talked about maybe burning the candle at both ends a little too much and pushing too hard. Of course, raising small children, and there's just so much, there's so much on your plate, and maybe the stress of that built up, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever it
Into
is,
a medical, into a medical event, maybe not,
maybe if I had listened to the symptoms sooner, it would have been a little different. But at the same time, I think that
the
there are
headaches.
the people in the
Right.
audience. Yeah. And I would always tell my students, don't ignore headaches, if you're in your 20s. But I think there are people in the audience who are going to understand what we're talking about, because this will resonate with them. And then part of, we're just introducing this today, but as we, develop, I mean, Tom also has a background in massage therapy. He's a licensed massage therapist, and we're going to be talking about the self-care aspects of what we do to take care of ourselves and nurture ourselves, because that's also a sign. Many of us think that we just got to keep pushing. And at the time when I had to teach, we needed my income. I didn't have somebody helping in the house. There were chores to do. I came home, I had the kids, and it just was, I didn't see a way out. And then all of a sudden it was like, boom, crash. And there might be people in the
We're going to
audience,
force you out.
who are seeing, that they too are coming close to having a shutdown. So anyway,
Absolutely.
we probably have
And-
about
and-
5 more minutes to wrap this up for our first, because I know we have a certain amount of time frame. I'm trying to see the time that's happening here.
Okay. Well, and just to piggyback on that story too, the signs, symptoms, synchronicities, etc., so many times they overlap. And a lot of
Good point.
times while we are feeling the symptoms, maybe the minor symptoms, the headaches leading up to the stroke, the stress in our shoulders that we carry and all of that, we may also have that small voice in the back of our head that says, Tom, dude, slow down, take a breath,
Yeah.
and it might not be an audible voice. It just might be that thing that's nagging you in the back of your consciousness, and it's there, and it's pulling at you, and so that's just a little add-on there, but yeah, that's a good one too. That's big stuff.
And you see it too in your work, as an EMT driver. I mean, you're not driving people to the amusement park, right? I mean, some of them have
Right.
had
we're taking them to the hospital. We're taking them to, and so many times I'm sure they would tell you a story similar to your own. I knew this was coming, or I knew I should do something different, but I didn't. Or I wish I had, taken better care of myself and I didn't, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, at the time, we typically don't have time to discuss that in that setting, but they probably would say things like that many times, especially when there was, the signs and the symptoms leading up to whatever the event is. How are we doing on time?
I think we're at, let's see, put my glasses on. Well, it says 36 minutes, so I think we have probably 3 more minutes more. But what I just wanted to say too is that Tom is absolutely right. Usually this is not just like one of the signals. Spirit is like double teaming us, sometimes triple teaming us, because that small voice was present with the symptoms, And so hopefully, as you listen and become part of our family here, you might be able to share some of the ideas that you've had, and we'll give you information about that. We have a website and we have email where you could send us a note. But this is really something to just for uplifting. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we have plans. We are a work in progress. That's where we are. We have plans to have this on social media platforms, to have a footprint in various social media platforms. I'm not sure exactly right now. Probably YouTube. Hopefully, we will have a good podcast host in line here in the next couple of days, where we will put the podcast up so you can listen while you're at work or at home relaxing, or wherever you're at, wherever you listen to podcasts. And we hope that you find this helpful, and that you want to come back and tune in, and as Barb said, to share your stories as well. I mean, we would love to hear, how God has gotten your attention in your life, and to be able to share that with others as well.
And as we evolve too, there's so many people that, we know who say, yeah, when you do the podcast, I'd like to come on, because of different experiences that they've had, because this is sort of a unique way to, this is sort of a unique way to organize, like the signals. People will call us up and say, you know what, this was definitely a signal or a sign that there were 3 items in the same store that I was going to buy, and it was because I needed to give a gift to family members in another country. Or, that song was one that my husband, who passed away, had with me, and it just reminded me that I was loved. These are the kinds of confirmations and situations and stories that people share, because there's this one thing about all of us. There's this common universal humanity that we relate to these situations, and wanting to belong and wanting to know that we're cared for beyond those that might be within our small circle here. And so we hope you join us.
Absolutely. Hope to see you soon.
Okay.
Hopefully we will be doing this every week.
Yeah, that's the
We'll have a
plan.
new podcast every week. Yeah. Well, thanks, Barb. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Tom. I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone. Have a blessed afternoon. Bye.